It is so good to be back here at Philippine Blockchain Week, and this time I'm floating on the Electric Dragon. I tried to get this board here last year. Unsuccessfully, I tried to set one of my boards here. This year, still was not able to. You know, one of the things we're talking about right now is the future. The future of blockchain and AI collaboration. I would like to think that people will use a device like this in the future. This board has nothing to do with AI or blockchain, but it makes me have a happy heart. And I figure if I'm a happy person, then we'll have a lot more fun together. So thank you for giving all of the speakers your attention. You know, so many of us come from around the world. Many, of course, are local, and we pour ourselves into something to prepare for you, to give you what we know. I have been speaking at AI events and blockchain events now for almost a decade. I decided that I needed to learn what was going on. So what I did in 2017 is I started hosting blockchain events and AI events separately because they weren't really connected to one another. I started to host these at Twitter's headquarters in 2017. And what that allowed me to do was to invite all my friends to come tell me what was going on with their industry. Now, at this point, there was no OpenAI and ChatGPT or Midjourney with the AI craze. I mean, if anything, Amazon Alexa, Google Assistant, Apple Siri, Samsung Bixby, that was kind of the one and only thing that people considered when it came to AI. As far as blockchain, it was really just Bitcoin as an alternative to transacting compensation with one another. Ethereum was just kind of coming on the scene. Now all of a sudden we have these ICOs built on the ERC20 platform, and now all these different startups are just saying, hey, we have an idea on how to build on top of this Ethereum network, and that started to open people's minds to what I'll call boring applications of blockchain, right? Boring applications, the things that matter most. Our ability to transition passports, driver's licenses, deeds for houses, our car pink slip, the membership to that club, the restaurant receipt, the hotel receipt, for us to transition this manual process that's slow with no trust, and to actually move that over to a trustless distributed ledger network. Now, when I really wrapped my head around the future of media, I never once thought it's all about blockchain. This is it. This is the tech for the people, by the people. This is the Rebel Alliance, right? For any Star Wars fans out there. These are the people that are going to change the world. And those people, those AI people, those Amazon Alexa, Google Assistant, Apple Siri, trillion-dollar market cap people, that over there, that's the evil empire. I never thought that. I didn't think AI was the evil empire. I thought AI was the most important part to actually have as an interface for people. You know, it's one thing to have great technology kind of working for us in the middle. But what I recognize is it took both this distributed ledger, independent, decentralized approach of blockchain technology to run everything, as well as this AI element, these large language models that allow us to create audio and visual and video, allow us to talk to computers. You know, so many of us are so fortunate that we have thumbs to press the glass, that we have fingers to type on the keyboard. How about those that are not capable? You know, many of us know English, which is at least one of the most well-known languages that allow people to communicate with one another. Well, how about those that don't speak a major language? You see, AI was always the promise of an interface that allowed traditional, boring media applications to actually have an ability for people to not fingers on a keyboard, thumbs on glass, but just speak to a machine, have the machine speak back to it. You see, this was the promise of the future. And you see this throughout all of the inspirational movies that we've all watched together, right? You see these inspirational movies and you kind of get a glimpse in the Jetsons cartoon, or you might even get a glimpse in some of the dystopic films like Blade Runner or Terminator. Now, that might be there to kind of scare you, give you anxiety, but ultimately, what you really see in these altered carbon type stories is this thought in, Minority Report. Tom Cruise's character walks into the room and he says something, and now the house knows that he's home. And the house knows what he wants, and so the meal's prepared for him. And the house knows he wants to watch the film with his daughter, his child and his wife, and that comes on. And you see the promise of the future, and so much of it appears to be these distributed ledger technologies built for the people, by the people, to automate everything trustless, and these large language models, these AI-based systems that would allow humanity to not be limited to only interacting with applications using something as archaic as a couple of thumbs. So for a moment, take that in. Realize that people in the AI space want you to focus exclusively on whatever's hot in that moment. So they'll talk bad about how terrible Siri or Alexa or Assistant or Bixby are today. And they'll say, but you know what's great? Midjourney's great. DALL-E's great. This new AI application built on OpenAI AI, this is great. But what happens in 5 years? Well, that technology, that's terrible now. Now the new thing's great. And they're always trying to kind of push this new hot thing in order to get you to be a consumer and to lean in and tell their story. And the same thing goes with blockchain, right? 10 years ago, it's Bitcoin. Everybody needs to get Bitcoin. Bitcoin, it's the money for the people, by the people. It's going to take the system down. And then it's Ethereum. And then it's the layer 2s. And then it's NFTs. And what happens is the media and marketing teams, they're going to constantly try to pull your attention to one industry and to the hot product in that industry. What they'll do is they will speak badly about what's just was hot, even though they were all about that. My favorite thing is when my friends are blockchain people pushing their ICOs, and then, no, that's not good anymore. Okay, now they're AI people, right? Now they're talking all about voices and interface. No, that's not exciting. So now they're NFT people, right? And that's what they're all about. They're the new NFT consultant. Okay, NFTs aren't in. Now I'm an OpenAI person, and I'm going to tell you all about how to use ChatGPT. Pay attention to how people are doing these things. So when you hear the world try to pull your focus to one industry, AI or blockchain, to one expression of that industry, whether it be an ICO for a token offering or NFTs, whether it be voice as an interface or the new text to image, ask yourself, why is this organization, why is this person trying to convince me that this is the most important thing, that this is the most important technology? And when you ask yourself these questions, you can better take into account before you start making decisions. I strongly encourage all of you that are here in this room, and again, so happy to be here with you. I love the Philippines. I've been coming here for 15 years. I'll always keep coming back. I feel like this is my second home. But also for those that are watching on the video, I know you're there in the future. Welcome to the party. For all of you, you need to understand the need for pace. Right? There's a lot of things we don't rush into in life. We don't rush into financial decisions most of the time. We shouldn't. Or relationships, or a new spiritual paradigm. We don't rush into a lot of things. We have a tendency to kind of take our time. And I encourage you, don't be worried about the AI boom passing you by. Machine learning, artificial intelligence, as marketing teams want us to call it, it will be here for the long haul. It will be the interface by which you interact with technology. It will save you and your peers and your friends tremendous amounts of time. It will be a driving force that allows all of humanity, including the 3 billion people that don't yet have the internet, the 3 billion people that make less than $2 a day, it will empower them to make a living and to thrive as all of humanity rises as the tide rises. And AI is a big part of that, as is blockchain. So today, after my exciting introduction with all of my passion, trying to wake you up and draw you in, I now will talk about something that the team at Hedera has been working on. So what you see here is Hello Future. Now here's the story behind Hello Future. Mance and Lehman, the founders of Hedera, that was their slogan. Now, it was the slogan at my company called Attention Live. And I remember 2019, I'm in Las Vegas, and I see some homies walking by with Hello Future t-shirts. And it was that right there, that font. And I thought, somebody has my shirt on. Hey, where'd you get that t-shirt at? And they over the Hedera booth. And that was my introduction to Hedera. Now at that time, this organization Hedera was really kind of built a private blockchain for the enterprise by the enterprise. And now today, it's a public blockchain that I'll talk a bit about that. What I really want to talk about when it comes to Hedera is not that Hedera is the only solution or the best solution. I mean, certainly, because I'm part of the team and because of just science and data, there's a lot to be said for what Hedera can bring to the table. But the purpose of this is so I can talk to you about some of the large enterprises that are innovating currently and inspire you to think about how organizations in Southeast Asia and Philippines can also be thoughtful of innovation around both AI and blockchain. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with the governance model. If you were here yesterday, I talked a bit about this. What you see are logos on a screen. That doesn't really mean anything. Here's what matters. These 29 companies are the council members that make decisions. So when you think about governance, you think about democracy. Everybody decides together. Well, that's really slow. You can trust them, but it's really slow. So then you think about dictatorship. Okay, one person makes a decision. You can't really trust them, but things happen fast. And then a lot of times people say, well, is anarchy the way? That's what we should do, anarchy. Well, there's no trust, there's no decision being made. It just says that we want no leadership. So what Hedera decided for governance is, why don't we have the council of the few, the Googles, the IBMs, the LGs of the world, to come together to make commitments to run this distributed ledger technology network so that we can ensure uptime, speed, cost effectiveness, ecological friendliness, and decentralization. And so this is the starting point for when you want to think about something sustainable, long-term, billions of users. What's the governance model like? The next thing to think about is sustainability. Now, I'm talking about how we glorify blockchain and we demonize AI. We do this with everything, don't we? With religion. I'm a Christian. Well, I'm a Catholic. You know, it's like people that love Jesus can't even get along. You know, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Buddhist. It's just like people just seem to always find a reason to fight. It's politics, right? In America, it's Democrats and Republicans. In the UK, it's the Labour Party, the Conservative Party. They have their own news networks, and they always are glorifying themselves and demonizing the other. Well, one issue with sustainability is that there has been this sense of people making more out of it than maybe needs to be. Okay, the world's going to end, the climate's all that matters. Oh no, that's all propaganda. That doesn't matter at all. I mean, it's somewhere in the middle, isn't it? We should try to focus on sustainability, we should try to focus on the environment, maybe not make it all that matters to us, but this is something that we focused on at Hedera. As you can see, Bitcoin uses a tremendous amount of energy, as does Ethereum. You also see up here Visa. Now, Visa was the inspiration for our governance model at Hedera. We saw that Visa basically was the conglomerate of all the large investment and finance companies to come together as a council of the few to make decisions at speed to get things done in the finance world. But if you look at Visa, which all of us use, every hotel, every restaurant, nobody complains, nobody moans about it being 1,000 times more energy being used for a transaction on Visa than on Hedera. So if we want sustainability, and if there's a reason to tie AI development into distributed ledger technology, then we might want to be thoughtful about not just the governance model, but also the sustainability model. Finally, we have the innovation, the actual technology that's before us. And what you want to see is it's not just about good governance or sustainability. There's a lot more to it than just that. And so this talks about kind of how this distributed ledger technology has changed over time, right? At first we had Bitcoin, which was a really big deal. I mean, it changed the whole paradigm for how finance could be done. Then we transitioned to Ethereum, smart contracts. This is how the NFT craze happened. This is how all the dApps are starting to happen. This is how we start to think through the boring applications of blockchain technology. AI companies start thinking, okay, well, if we tie into the Ethereum network, it's too expensive, but how about a second layer network? We can use Polygon or Immutable or one of these, and then we can actually prove. We have immutable proof of what's on there. How can we protect content creators? So that way, anytime somebody uses their content, AI proves on the blockchain. And people start thinking through these different ideas. So what Hedera's done is put together a blockchain that is very fast, ecologically friendly, very inexpensive because our pricing is frozen. It's at a fixed fee rather than Ethereum pricing go up and down, right? If the gas fees are high, it's too expensive. Well, you can't really scale a business like that. You can't scale an AI startup like that. And so I tell you these things about Hedera as a starting point. Now, what I want to talk about is the accelerator at Hedera. Now, Hedera is not a company. I'm the chief of staff at Hedera Hashgraph LLC, where we have our general counsel and our finance team. We have our chief policy officer working to work with policymakers to say, hey, how can we make better policy? Our chief regulation officer saying, hey, how do we stay in compliance? How do we do things legally, do things right so that everybody that counts on our network can be, have it there for them? Our chief open source officer, how do we work with developers and empower them to kind of create in our system? That's Hedera Hashgraph. That's the team I get to work with. And then, in addition to that, we have Swirlds Labs. This is the founders of the Hashgraph protocol with all of our maintenance, all of our R&D, all of our improvements, our marketing team. So that's 2 of our companies. But then we have 3 other organizations that are foundations. So if you need capital to scale your AI idea, listen up to this. Hedera has the HBAR Foundation, the Hashgraph Association, and the DLT Science Foundation. These 3 organizations were granted a large amount of our tokens so that they could give our currency away to startups, to enterprises, and to governments. Imagine if the country of the Philippines, or maybe just the city of Manila, had an idea about how to use an AI technology, and this country or this city, they say, well, it would be so good if we could tie to a blockchain so it automates, it's fast, it's immutable, it's trustworthy, it's provable, there's no question about corruption. Well, our foundations would be very interested in working with Manila, very interested in working with the Philippines or any Southeast Asia country to provide revenue and resources to you so that you could actually build on our network. So we're not just bringing you great governance and sustainability and incredible technology, but we also have things like this accelerator. Now, I'm not going to go over all the details of our stablecoin accelerator, but one thing that's important to understand is stablecoins are not just USDC or USDT. It's not just a thing that's pegged to $1 alone. Sometimes stablecoins are more utility focused. And so there are organizations that would like to have stability around the cost and the value of their tokens, and we have 3 different automated approaches to do that. And I think that for a country like Philippines and this whole entire region, this is quite exciting, and we've had some local financial institutions work on this. So we'll talk a bit about our ecosystem. You might recognize Shinhan Bank. They're based out of South Korea. They have been using our stablecoin technology to do real-time international remittances. You might be familiar with Neuron. So Neuron's an AI company. They have AI put inside the DJI drones, and so they wanted to make sure that the AI that's being used on their drones was tied to an immutable ledger, a distributed ledger, that they could have all sorts of interaction between their AI, their hardware, their software, and of course, what we built. And so data integrity for automated mobility. I'm going to go through a few more of these just to give you kind of a taste of what it is that we are working on with these large enterprises. At ServiceNow, it's a huge SaaS company, one of the largest in the world. They provide tokenization as a service for their ESG clients. Another one is DLA Piper, one of the largest law firms in the world, and they've looked at how they can do tokenization in compliance with all governments that's possible around the world, and they want to tokenize real-world assets, right? Like, I came out here, I talked about passports, I talked about real estate, I talked about cars, I talked about memberships. I mean, how many of you have paid for a membership and you don't need it anymore? The golf club, the country club, the restaurant, this Costco membership, and then you leave, and now you don't need it. Well, too bad for you. But if it was on the blockchain, then you could just transfer that membership to somebody. I mean, why are we using title companies to transfer real estate from one to another? Why are we using DMVs in America to transfer cars from one to another? Why don't we just make an agreement? I want to sell you my car. You can have my car, you give me money, and there's no middleman. That's what we're talking about when we talk about tokenizing real-world assets. And think about all the AI companies that are working to automate these boring things, but the AI automating this manual process is not enough. You ultimately want to have the ability for a trustless, guaranteed, dependable, distributed ledger that allows you to know that between a person and a person, or a person and an organization, or two institutions, that what they say they're doing is actually followed through, and a distributed ledger allows that to be true. Finally, LG, another company in South Korea, and so we're turning the TVs into art galleries for an NFT platform. It's one of the most exciting organizations that we provided a lot of support and resources to, so they could really attack this idea. And then you start to think, what else can come of this? Like, what can come with all of your AI ideas? You back there in the future, all your beautiful AI ideas. Is it good enough just to have great AI? Or maybe, just maybe, would it help to have an ecosystem like this, where you know that there's all this innovation, right? We have our governing council, our ecosystem, and our applications, all the different types of organizations that are building inside of our ecosystem. And so the reason why I bring this up is that oftentimes, great startups with great ideas, they don't think how to go from the first 100 customers to 5 billion. They think how to go from the first 100 customers to the next 1,000, to the next 10,000, then to exit, only to leave their customers and their legacy wanting. If you are an innovator, and if you intend to build great technology, and you want that technology to be trustworthy, I strongly encourage you to look into distributed ledger technology and think through, how can AI and blockchain collaborate to bring the best of both worlds? And then really, how can Philippines as a country, and all of you beautiful people, be a part of leading that effort? And let me just say this, I have felt since I came 15 years ago here, I have felt that this region has the greatest potential with future technology. You know, if there's amazing automation that happens with AI or blockchain in America, or in the most wealthy parts of Europe, or the most wealthy parts of Asia, or any area, the impact is low, right? I mean, what's going to happen? We're going to save a little time, make a little more money. But what happens when automation hits the region of Southeast Asia, especially not just in the city of Manila, where 25 million people live in this metro area, but how about all the outer lying islands? How about when Starlink or some other satellite starts to provide high-speed internet to everybody for free? How about when one of these large companies start to send everyone rings, watches, glasses, headsets, so that they can communicate with the internet freely? And when there's no longer anything that keeps the average human from having the equal opportunity. I mean, we see that with the cell phone, don't we? Like, it doesn't matter how poor a person is or how much of a struggle they have, it's like every human seems to have access to a cell phone at this point. And that's a huge innovation. But what happens when AI becomes the interface? What happens when blockchain becomes the anchor that runs everything? All of a sudden, this might mean that for certain people in Southeast Asia, you're talking about a 10x, a 100x impact on their ability to generate revenue and to thrive as a people group. And I would wish that for nobody more than I would wish that for your people. I have more time, and believe me, I can talk. I can come up with things to say. That's easy for me. But instead of doing that, we're at the end of the day, and I want to invite any of you that may want to ask a question before I wrap to go ahead and do that. I think I have some friends with a microphone. I'm not going to take more than 2 questions, so if you have a question about the things I'm talking about, I am happy to take it. But the lights are blinding, so I can't tell.
It's okay, I got you, buddy. So, great opportunity to ask questions. Who has a question? Who has a question? Oh my God, it was so amazing.
Everybody's so shy. You know, last year what I had to do is I had to give stuff away. I had all these hats and these shirts, and I even gave money away. I gave a $100 bill away. I was like motivating people. Oh, there, I got a question. I don't have no money, but I want your question. All right, bring a microphone to that man.
I was actually going to look for you afterwards anyway. My question would be, in terms of disaster risk reduction management for DRR, how can we use your technology, being with a lot of its advantages, to make it easier for DRR's response in the sense of the financial side?
Yeah,
so it's easier for you to give out aid.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the easiest way to go about that is to either check out Hedera, HEDERA.com. That's a good starting point, specifically to connect with one of the foundations and talk to the foundations that are out there deploying capital and grants. They're out there giving developers out to develop these things out, and maybe they've worked on something similar, or maybe they would like to work on something similar, and they go, hey, that's perfect, we want to get in on that. Or, oh, have you heard about these organizations? We've been doing that with them. And then, of course, the other thing is just to look at a local community. I would be hesitant to give you an answer that I think might satisfy you. What I will say is that we would like to investigate, and there's not just one foundation, right? There's many to pull from many communities. And if you want to talk a bit more detail, I'm happy to do that afterwards. Anybody else have a question?
One more question. Oh, there we are. Of course it is. Yeah. Let's do it.
I was asking them if it's okay to ask a question.
Please, I'd love to take your question. Yes.
Because for somebody who does not really know anything about what you just talked about, how would you invite me, or how would you tell me in 2 minutes, not to really have a good grasp of what you just said, but to make me interested to know more about everything that you talk about there?
It's a great question. Throughout all of history, technology is usually created as a weapon. It's just the reality. Yet, somehow, what started off as a weapon ends up becoming a beautiful thing to develop prosperity and abundance for many, many, many people. Cryptography, the basis of all distributed ledger technology, cryptography was a weapon of mass destruction in World War II. Machine learning, AI, that all started with the military. So what I would tell you is when we talk about artificial intelligence, when we talk about blockchain technologies, these things started off with the intent to be weaponized from one people group to another, from one country to another. And now, as things have matured, you see that these are now being used to completely change the way we think of the financial system, completely change the way that we think of all of the softwares that we're using, and the ability to save time, and the ability to empower people to make a living. And so if I only have a minute, what I would tell you is that this technology is here to stay. It's inevitable. And this technology has already gone past its weaponizing phase, and now it's into its abundance, prosperity, being used as a tool for good for humanity phase. And it doesn't matter if you understand it. I don't understand it. How could I ever understand something as complex as machine learning or distributed ledger technology? It's insanely difficult to grasp. But what I have done is enough investigation, and I've worked on enough projects that I can at least try to explain simply some of the benefits of leaning in. And so if you're going to lean in, I would just tell you, could you maybe use your Samsung Bixby Google Assistant on your Android a little bit more? Could you maybe use Apple Siri on your iPhone just a little bit more? Could you maybe use your Amazon Alexa in your house or your office just a little more? Could you maybe create a little bit more text to image on Midjourney? Could you maybe ask ChatGPT a few extra questions? Could you maybe investigate some of these blockchain companies that you haven't taken the time to really look into? Like, have you really taken the time to investigate Bitcoin, Ethereum, Hedera, or the others? And so that's what I would tell you with 2 minutes. I would tell you that these were weapons that are now prosperity tools, and it's worth leaning in just a little bit more. And what I'll end with is, we have speakers come up on stages, and oftentimes it feels like speakers are elevated above the audience. But that's only for the cameras. It's only for a full room. Nobody in all of humanity is better than another. No ethnicity is better. No gender is better. No age is better. No blockchain is truly better than another. No AI is actually better than another. No technology is superior to the other industry. Pull back, take a breath, recognize your greatness, recognize what you're capable of, and then ask yourself, can I maybe just do a little bit more? Can I do a little more research? Can I take a little more risk? And I'll tell you, if you do, you'll be glad that you did. And I am glad to be here, and I'm thankful for your attention. Thank you so much, everybody.